Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our banter, where we talk about the story Cicada narrated for the week, what parts we liked, and what we did not like about it. Today, Cicada, I'm going to start off with an animal fun fact. Cows are really heavy drinkers. On the high end, a dairy cow is able to drink up to 50 gallons of water a day.
Interesting. I did not realize that. That's very cool. Thank you.
Oh, no problem. It's my pleasure every week to share with you. But let's get started into this. I kind of want to know your opinion, your first take on this story. How are you feeling about it?
I'll be very genuine with you. I didn't like it. I didn't really like anything about it. It had nice detail on things, and it definitely gave a very nice insight into a farmhand's life. It really expressed. I lied. I do like one thing about it. I liked how much the main protagonist expressed how much he didn't like doing certain things and how he felt. It was good for people's emotions.
Yeah, no, I think More Tanks does a really good job of describing Joseph as a narrator, like how he's feeling about like using the bolt gun. And he forms like almost an attachment like as he would. He's been there for 4+ years, I think. 15. I think I may have underestimated that. But he really does have a connection to these animals. And he's not happy that he has to be the one to put them all down. But he knows he has to because they're suffering.
Yeah, absolutely. The kid that's new, he goes and he hurls in the bushes when he starts using the bolt gun. I think it's a good insight into how it works for pretty much almost anybody that's never really done it before. Joseph stomachs it because he's done it more times than he can count, I'd assume.
Yeah,
Um,
no, I agree with that. And that's another thing. Like, I totally agree with, I enjoy that part of the story. Other than that, I'm not. I'm not too terribly a big fan about it. How about yourself?
no, that was probably one of the few redeeming qualities. Um, I enjoyed narrating it. It was fun to narrate, a lot of different voices, a lot of different things happening. But the way it was written specifically, it felt very choppy. It was very like abrupt and starting and stopping almost, and it made it difficult to do it almost to narrate the story.
That makes sense. And listening to it, I agree. It does kind of get a little choppy. And originally, I was a big fan of the pacing, but in our private conversation, you did kind of point out a little bit of not really a plot hole in it, but the pacing is just horrible. It goes one cow dies, three cow dies, all the animals die, and then a monster rolls up.
And not even that, but it's quite literally one cow dies, he buries that cow, comes back, three cows are dead, he kills those cows, goes to bed, wakes up, all the cows are dying, and then it's a monster. It's that fast.
Yeah, I don't know. It at the time hearing it, it I think it did the story justice. Like listening to it for the first time, it it sounded good. I could picture it in my head. This farm just fully falling apart. But reflecting on it for a little bit, it just doesn't make any sense on how fast this disease is moving.
Yeah, absolutely. And the disease itself, to me, is a plot hole. I mean, what is it? Where did it come from? What is it doing? Why is it only targeting animals at first? In our private conversations, you mentioned Jeffrey, the owner's son. He gets infected because I said a person didn't get infected, but it to me makes the least amount of sense for him to be infected. Why wouldn't the people that worked with these animals every single day not get infected?
Yeah, no, and I originally tried defending it with, well, in the story they're wearing protective equipment, but you did point out that they had not been for the day prior and like the weeks coming up to it because I believe Jeffrey's it's stated that he's been missing or like not around for 2+ weeks. So I guess that kind of leaves it up to like, did he get it from somewhere else? Is this a worldwide thing? Is it only localized at this farm? It it brings more questions than answers.
Yeah, I would agree because why would he have it specifically? I mean, maybe he came into contact with it, like specifically like he touched the big monster. Um, but I'm not really sure. But speaking of the big monster, my glaring question for it is why? Why is it a thing? Where does it come from? Why is that the end goal of this disease is to create some giant rampaging behemoth that seems to be mindless but also not at the same time?
I guess when first hearing the story, I kind of thought of it like a cordyceps virus. I think I'm using that correctly. Um, Something that just takes over corpses and its main purpose is to spread. That really doesn't fit, but that's like the best thing I could come up with, like to answer your said question.
Honestly, I like the answer of cordyceps. I didn't really think about that. Because you're right, cordyceps, and that is the correct way to pronounce it. It is a disease, that works its best ways through, going between host to host. But typically, a cordyceps will have a breeding stage almost, where it then tries to move to another host before it kills the host that it has. That way, it can continue to spread. So I guess technically, like a cordyceps would work here, but it killed all of its hosts, except for I guess now it's a giant ball of something rolling off into the sunset.
Yeah, and maybe I don't know. I was gonna try to compare it to a lot of our stories have the like predator prey theme, and I was gonna try to bring it into here, but I don't think it that fits at all either. It just kind of seems to destroy things because it can't. Not even like intelligently, but like there's a barn there. I'm gonna break it and move on with my day, like for no reason. It causes a lot of damage, which sounds cool in the story, plays out really well. I really do enjoy that scene. If you don't think about it like any deeper than surface level, it's a cool picture in your head. But I guess when you start asking why is it going around destroying everything, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, surface level, it is honestly a decent story overall. It's kind of one of those that I guess if you're going shopping and you see an orange and you're like, man, that's a good looking orange, and you take it home and it's actually rotten on the inside. On the outside, it does look like a really good orange. Um, but yeah, once you start kind of digging into it, it's why does this happen? Where does this come from? And I mean, that's actually a big thing is where does this come from? There is no they didn't bring in a different cow, nothing changed, there was no new farm hands. Why is this suddenly appeared? Did it come from the soils because they didn't say they were harvesting crops or anything or spreading manure? Where where did it come from? Where did it go? Why is this disease just Cotton Eye Joe? I don't
I
understand.
if I were to guess, it would be an avian flu of some sort. That's the only way because they aren't farming. They're not laying fertilizer. They didn't bring in new animals. Um, Avian flu does affect a wide variety of animals, livestock, horses, cows, I even believe people. And maybe it was some mutated form of avian flu, and bird took a fly over the cow's water, dropped a little poop in there. Cows aren't gonna know or think about that. They're, they're smart, but they're not that smart. And at least that's how I made it make sense in my head.
Yeah, fair enough. And I mean that's actually a pretty big thing for not cordyceps specifically, but there are um the virus in deer, like that comes a lot from
Right? Are you
from
talking about
birds.
CWP, the Pyron? Yeah.
Yes, yeah, the prion. Yeah. Um, there's also one that affects slugs that comes from birds. So yeah, there is a lot of diseases that come from birds that even the birds don't get. They're really just used as like a transfer host. So I guess that does make sense.
Yeah.
I
That's
like
just
that.
at least the way that I try to make it make sense. But besides that point, I guess something that we didn't talk about privately, and I kind of want to bring up to you here. I do enjoy the narrator's kind of moral dilemma of he clearly doesn't want to put down these animals, and no one does. But I do like how much it touches on like I'm doing this, putting these animals down, not as a hero, but because I don't want them to suffer and trying to stop the spread to other animals. Kind of how they like put all the horses and chickens far away from the cows, separate the healthy people. And I think throughout the whole story, he's making, in his mind, the right call every time. How did you view that as a moral dilemma? Did you just kind of take it how it was?
Not really as a moral dilemma. I do agree with almost all of that, just that it's not a moral dilemma. He's just doing his job and doing what he believes is correct. And I guess you are correct. That is something that I really like is he thinks he's doing everything right. And it's kind of one of those where, he does everything right, but it doesn't matter. It all ends up being the same, unfortunately. It's kind of one of those where there's no hope. It is what it's going to be. And I think that's kind of what More Tanks was going for there.
And I think that makes, for the story, I like it. That it makes sense because it is. There's a lot of questions, but it is something that humans don't understand. We've never seen it before. And keeping with the theme of like the unknown, it doesn't matter what the narrator does, it's going to happen. And I thought of, the writing and everything, that theme does fit, even if it's not done amazingly.
Absolutely. And I guess, we were kind of dogging on the story the whole time. I have read a bunch of other of uh, More Tanks' works or listened to them on other podcasts. They're good. They're good. He has a bunch of other works that are very, very good. And I don't want to just, make it seem like he's a terrible author or anything like that. I think that he does have very good
I have
works.
not read or listened to any Mortank's works, so I can't really talk on that subject. I do believe, and I guess I could quickly find this, but I'm pretty sure this is posted 3 months ago from when we're going to be releasing this episode. His new works.
Interesting. Maybe just listening to it as podcasts because I like to get my horror stories through podcasts. Um, maybe just listening to it, the authors or the narrators do well with, their narrations, and they're better at it and more experienced than I am in this case, and they make them seem better. Um, but I would like to at least hold out hope that the rest of his works are better.
Yeah, and I hope so too. I mean, there's a chance he does appear to have some other farm related stories. So this may not be the last time we see Mordex on the channel or more tanks on the channel.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always willing to give him another shot. One last little thing that I would like to touch on because it made me chuckle at the end of the story almost. Um, where does it go? Is there just a giant blob of cow and horse rolling through the forest somewhere?
I would like to imagine that it bigger picture. I'm really forgetting the name of it, but maybe you'll know. It's a creepy pasta. It is a national park made out of flesh. Does that ring any bells to you?
Is that the one that's a town deep in one of the national forests?
I believe so. But besides the point, I'd like to think that somehow it relates. It's in that universe, and it is just hauling ass to the meat town, the meat national park, and going and just connecting to it. That maybe in some way, whatever this meat is for it to grow, it needs to collect more biomass.
See, and I totally in my head pictured like the National Guard getting a bird up and just lighting it up with a 50 cal, kind of like the movie Jurassic World, where they're shooting at the big dinosaurs it's running through, just following it around, just blasting this giant blob of cows with like a 50 cal or something like that. Just something silly as it's like just rolling through trees, crashing around, trying to find new meat.
Yeah, well, on that note, I think it's time for us to get into our ratings. Do you want to take the lead on that, Cicada?
Absolutely. And unfortunately, Cow, I don't have a good rating. This is the lowest rating so far. And I have to give this story a 4 out of 10. You know, as we just spent the last 15 minutes talking, the pacing wasn't great for me. The monster didn't make any sense. The disease didn't make any sense. I just, surface level was decent, but once you dug into it, it just wasn't that good.
Yeah, and I'm gonna have to kind of join you in that low rating. I'm gonna give it a 5. I it gets a bonus point because there was cows. I'm not even gonna lie.
Fair.
Big fan of the cows, even though they all died. It's kind of sad, but there was cows in it. I don't like the pacing either, and I guess when originally I gave it a 7. In my mind, it was great when I first heard you, and then I sat on it for a night, and then I started thinking about it, and it just didn't make any sense. So for that reason alone, I'm gonna have to give it a 5.
Fair enough, Cow. Well, unfortunately, you know, the hour draws late, and I have things that I have to attend to, so I must leave you and all of our listeners. Good night.
Good night, everyone.